Hello, and welcome to the first actual episode of A River Between Chaos and Zen, the poetry podcast from Creative Actors Lab. My name is Max. So this being the actual first real episode I'm doing here, just wanted to say a couple of things. I am not a scholar. I barely made it out of high school. I am not really able to sit down and come across the poetry that I want to share with you guys over the course of time and break it down into what meter and structure and what they meant by this and that. I don't know any of that. I just know that I love this and I want to share. And the more that I look around and the older I get, the more I am convinced that poetry is just essential. We really need poetry now more than ever. I want to share something with you, actually. This first poem, it's everything I have today is within the public domain. This is old school stuff. There's a poem by Edward Lear that I remember my grandmother actually used to share with us when we were kids, because they were my grandparents, my mom's parents came from England. They were very poor, grew up in a family of about 10 kids. They all left school to go work on the family farm. They did not have much. They didn't have... what they had to amuse themselves, I came to discover, is that it was poems and limericks and silly songs and nursery rhymes and stories, and it was just the sharing of this. And I remember my grandmother saying this poem. She had it memorized from when we were kids, and she would just get so delighted by doing this. And my grandparents were very kind people, but they were very stoic and they were very hardworking people, and to see them come forth with the amount of joy that they would share with us when they were reading these poems, it brings a nice warm glow to my heart, and I wanted to share that with you. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. They took some honey and plenty of money wrapped in a 5-pound note. The owl looked up to the stars above and sang to a small guitar, "Oh, lovely pussy, oh pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are. You are, you are. What a beautiful pussy you are." Pussy said to the owl, "Oh, you elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married, too long we have tarried, but what shall we do for a ring?" They sailed away for a year and a day to the land where the bong tree grows, and there in a wood a piggy-wig stood with a ring at the end of his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. "Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring?" said the piggy. "I will." So they took it away and were married the next day by the turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince, which they ate with a runkable spoon, and hand in hand on the edge of the sand they danced by the light of the moon, the moon, the moon. They danced by the light of the moon. Nanny and Granddad, that one's for you guys. The next one I wanted to share, actually, it's Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The poem is called Kubla Khan. And I actually came to discover this poem when I was a teenager, actually, listening to the band Rush. There was a song, I think, and if I'm wrong, correct me, please, but the band Rush put out this album called Farewell to Kings, and the song's called Xanadu, and they said it's directly inspired by this poem Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And something I came to discover right around the same time that I was listening to Rush and a lot of other bands like that, that it was the one time in my life I ever partook of heroin. And I loved it so much that it scared me to death, and I never ever did it again. So apparently Samuel Taylor Coleridge was a bit of a lover of all things opium. And his thing was he would do some kind of a brew that was like opium steeped in some kind of booze, and he would just spend his days in oblivion and whatnot. And as someone who experimented with various states of consciousness, just as I have read the poem, I can actually see the kind of the dreamlike quality that one gets when one is off on another plane due to imbibing substances, shall we say. But in that way, it does bring back a lot of memories of a time in my life where not a lot of things mattered, and all of a sudden they did. But this is a poem also about growing old. It's called Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alph, the sacred river, ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers, were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree, and here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. But oh, the deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover, a savage place as holy as enchanted as ere beneath a waning moon was haunted by a woman wailing for her demon lover, and this chasm with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momentarily forced, and amid whose swift half-intermittent burst huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's flail, and mid these dancing rocks at once and ever it flung up momentarily the sacred river. 5 miles meandering in a mazy motion through wood and dale, the sacred river ran, then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean. And mid this tumult, Kubla heard from far ancestral voices prophesying war. The shadow of the dome of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. A damsel with a dulcimer in a vision once I saw. It was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Orobah. Could I revive within me her symphony and song, to such a deep delight 'twould win me, that with music loud and long I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome, those caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, beware, beware, his flashing eyes, his floating hair, weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he hath on honeydew fed and drunk the milk of paradise. And something I wanted to say about this poem also is years and decades later, when I was reading books that had to do with metaphysics and the mysteries and all good woo-woo things like that, I came to discover it's a bit of a ritual that basically is a ritual of protection from just whatever evil influence or distractions or whatever that may plague a person. And the last bit about weave the circle around him thrice and close your eyes with holy dread, for he hath on honeydew fed and drunk the milk of paradise, was actually used within the magical invocation of protection and strength and fortitude. And I just thought that was so cool. And I would like to, if I may, share one more with you. William Butler Yeats, who I came to discover around the time that was when I first started to study theater and acting in college, and William Butler Yeats just happened to, I just come around at some point, and I started reading him, and got very, very interested in him. But just prior to that, I was in art school, and I had a teacher. He was a figure drawing teacher. I actually had a couple of teachers that both of them said, if you're going to be a professional artist, if you're going to be a professional creative person, and every once in a while what's going to happen is you're going to have no inspiration whatsoever. And you're going to go, where am I going to get my next great idea from? And what they said is, read poetry. I had one teacher in particular. I had a teacher, Mike Carnegie was his name, who taught us advertising design. And while he would give us our assignments and we'd sit in class drawing and sketching and illustrating and all that sort of thing, he would read some of the short stories of John Steinbeck. And that's how I really grew to love John Steinbeck. But the other teacher, the figure drawing teacher, his name was Gary Tepper. Very interesting character. Maybe we'll talk about him in a future podcast, but that's, as they say, another story for another time. But this is a poem. It's called Sailing to Byzantium. And I remember Mr. Tepper was a very unique teacher, to say the least. But he actually read this poem to a bunch of us. We were we were all in our early 20s and late teens and early 20s, and of course we knew fucking everything there is to know about everything. And basically the poem, it does have to do with growing old, but it's kind of like, it's just, and I think his message was, you're not going to be 21 forever, kids. And you're going to grow up, and there's going to come times that you're going to see people younger and faster than you are, but you have to keep in mind that don't get decrepit. Growing old does not have to mean growing feeble, growing weak, growing useless. It's coming with age. You acquire a temperance. You become like a fine wine, hopefully, if that's what you are searching for. But I love this poem. I love this poem. It's called Sailing to Byzantium. That is no country for old men, the young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, these dying generations at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh or fowl, commend all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born and dies, caught in that sensual music all neglect, monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. Nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire as the mosaic. Oh, pardon me. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, sick with desire, and fasten to a dying animal. It knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature, I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make, of hammered gold and gold enameling, to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or to set upon a golden bough to sing to the lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past, or is passing, or to come. Mr. Tepper, that one's for you, buddy. That's what I had to share this time. There's a lot I would like to do with this podcast, and this is intentionally going to be a very imperfect podcast. I always like the idea of, remember someone telling me about the Native Americans, that when they weave tapestries, there's a school of thought to where they will leave an imperfect thread or in perfect fiber going through the tapestry. Even though they could conceivably do the entire thing perfectly, they don't. They leave imperfect threads through there to show that they are human, and art and poetry and magic flow through us. And I always like that. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much for listening. Again, this is A River Between Chaos and Zen. Thank you for listening. Until next time, I wish you peace.